Okay, greetings everyone. Welcome. This is Todd Byerther on the Spokane Plan Commission. This is November hearing on November 11th, 2020. For the Plan Commission, this is a continuation of our workshop session, but we'd like to again start by acknowledging all of our veterans today. Happy Veterans Day. Thank you for your service. Today this is a continuation of a hearing from 2 weeks ago on the renaming of Fort George Wright Drive. So we left by taking some public testimony 2 weeks ago, and we will continue the oral part. We left the record open for written, and now this will be the continuation of the oral testimony. I'd like to welcome Ms. Tammy Palmquist from the city. Would you like to introduce any of this for background?
Would we like to do another roll call of Plan Commission members?
Thank you.
Before we get going?
My apologies. Thank you. So with that,
Michael Baker. I know he was here. There are too many people on the screen now. I can't see everyone.
I see his name there. Yeah.
Todd Byerther.
Here.
John Dietzman.
Here.
Greg Francis.
Here.
Diana Painter.
Here.
Thomas Sanderson.
Here.
Carol Shook.
Here.
Sylvia St. Clair. Cliff Winger.
Here.
Mary Winkus. Mary, are you still here? Oh, I see you now. Joanne.
Here.
And we still have a quorum.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Now, Ms. Palmquist, please.
Hi, I'm Tammy Palmquist, and I am a planner in the Development Services Center with the City of Spokane. And this hearing is a continuation, like Todd said, a continuation from a hearing 2 weeks ago. This is for a street name change, specifically Fort George Wright Drive between Government Way and TJ Meanock Bridge. The application was brought forward by council members Stratton and Wilkerson, and they have worked with the tribal community to come up with a name that was presented at the last hearing. We did have some noticing requirements that needed to be met, so we held the record open to ensure that everybody had access to comment and provide feedback on the application. The name that was brought forward was Wistocks Way, and there's a few people here today, so I will let them talk more about why that name was chosen and what it means. And as stated in the last hearing, this is governed under Spokane Municipal Code, Chapter 17D, 050A, Roadway Naming and Addressing, and specifically 17D 050A 055, Naming of Roadways, which specifically says that before submitting a proposed roadway name to the Plan Commission, the Development Services Center shall cause the applicant to give notice to property owners fronting on the roadway, the United States Postal Service, and emergency dispatch personnel. So all of this noticing has been done. We have received feedback from the addressing authority, and the name Wistocks Way with the hyphen removed does meet the naming requirements as outlined in our municipal code, as well as the countywide addressing standards. With that, I will turn it over to Karen. Do you want to talk about the process that you've done with outreach?
Absolutely. Thank you, and good late afternoon, everyone. I just want to reaffirm that what Councilmember Wilkerson and I have done met the requirements of the Plan Commission when we wanted to move this forward, especially in this time that we have met the requirements, all the requirements that the Plan Commission lays out in the changing of a street name. And that included the discussion about public outreach and public comment. We started because Spokane is named after the Spokane tribe and we're on tribal land. As I said before, we contacted the tribal chair, Carol Evans, and asked that she lead a community discussion among the tribes about the name. I can tell you that that outreach, and I've been forwarding as I get information, included members of the elders and the Spokane Tribal Council, the Colville tribe, the Coeur d'Alene tribe, the Kootenai, the Kalispel, the Yakima, the Palouse, Nez Perce, and those were the tribes that were reached out to either in discussions or I have emails of support from those tribes. They are aware of this process. The Carol Evans and the Spokane tribe did with the name that you have. Anything that we have learned this, somebody might have their mic. Is that better? Okay.
I'm working on it, Karen. It looks like everyone's muted.
Okay, so let me try this again. The one thing that I will say that I think I'm very grateful for, or I am grateful for, that we've learned along the way, we were unaware of a local organization called the Native American Action for Policy Alliance. They did contact us last month and wanted to sit down and have a discussion about this. We did have that discussion. We know they're out there now. We want to continue that relationship as we move forward with other issues. So that was a lesson learned. And I think if this happens again, we really need to look at the outreach versus the rule that says you don't necessarily have to go out for community input. I think that was where we had some imbalance, and I take responsibility for that. But we did have a good conversation. They are here, members are here today. They've had opportunities for public input, which is wonderful. And so where do we go from here? What I left the last meeting with and what I'm hearing from the last meeting to today is that the name has support. There are people that are proud that it is a name that honors tribal women and women warriors. We've learned some great experiences through outreach, and I don't want the name change to be jeopardized by the fact that we did have some problems with that outreach. I think that we answered the call to sit around table and talk with people about it. I think it's a great name, and I don't want it to be jeopardized. And if we don't change it now, I don't know when we will. So I thank all of you for your patience. Everybody here, thank you for your input. And we, Betsy and I, are ready to move forward and do what we need to do to finally change the name of Fort George Wright Way. Betsy, do you have a comment?
Thank you, Councilmember Stratton. And all that you said is true. What it has shown us is that we do have some gaps in our system that has brought to our attention. And we are always looking for volunteers and people who are willing to step up and help us learn from that and move it forward. So I'm not on the Planning Commission, Todd, but I'll extend the invitation. If you're interested in doing that, please reach out. And I too would like to see the name go forward, and it's a great name.
Great. Thank you. Oh, go ahead, Tammy.
I just wanted to add that all public comment that I have received, as well as email correspondence, has been forwarded to you, and minus what we received yesterday and today, everything is also on the website. So people can view those public comments that were received. And I will make sure to get yesterday and today's comments up on the website moving forward as well.
Okay. Thank you, Tammy, and thank you, Council Members Stratton and Wilkerson. So today, commissioners, our job ultimately is to make a recommendation to the city council on the application, which includes the name that's been proposed by the process that the applicants took. And our role has been
Change the name of Fort George Wright Drive. And
sorry, I'm hearing.
city council, couple of city.
Not quite sure. Okay, thank you. I think we got it. Okay, so backing up a little bit. So we workshopped this item, and we took, maybe I helped take a very open process where we included stakeholders in the workshop process. So there was one opportunity to engage the public. The second, more formal part was opening the hearing last 2 weeks ago, our last hearing, and where we had the presentation from staff, from Ms. Palmquist, and then we open up the oral testimony. Remind everyone, if you've written or already given oral testimony, that's formally in the record now. So today, and we were very loose last time, so we wanted to purposely to have a very extended conversation and have very open dialogue in the testimony. So today, then, if you've already testified, you're welcome to testify again, but we ask for to perhaps avoid repetition. So today we're going to propose that individuals testify for 3 minutes, or if you represent a larger group that hasn't had opportunity yet, we can extend that time, and then we can make a decision if we need to include more input. So today I'm going to read through some of the hearing procedures just to set this up. So we've already imposed time limits for individual and group presentations. Please either use the chat feature if you haven't already indicated you'd like to speak today through email, or we will make plenty of time to put you in queue just if you'd like to be recognized. All persons or commission members shall wait to be recognized by the president before speaking. We talked about persons testifying are asked to avoid repetition and limit the comments to specific project and code compliance. Let's see. I think with that, I'm reading through a lot of our hearing procedures apply more when we're in person. So. Okay, so once we get through here, there is an opportunity after we close after public testimony for rebuttal if the applicants would like, and then at the end of that we will close the hearing to close the record, and then we will entertain a motion from the commission, and that will be our opportunity to deliberate and then make a recommendation. So with that. Jackie or Stephanie, I haven't seen, do we have a list already of people that like to testify today?
We didn't get any responses in the online thing, and I didn't receive any emails unless Lewis did.
I have not either. So I think we should, from the audience, start taking those that would like to testify.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone like to be recognized on the WebEx or by call? I see a hand, so we'll address Mr. Thomas Cooney, please. I think you're on mute, Mr. Cooney.
Often you can press the space bar.
There we go. Did that fix it?
We can hear you
Yes,
now.
go ahead.
Yeah. Just before you recognize me, there was a comment that no emails, no public comment had been received by email.
No, correction. I was yes. Everything that's been received by email is in the record. If you'd like to summarize that, please do that, but it's not necessary to repeat that content. I was referring to anyone asked to be recognized for testimony today via email, and we have not received any. So now we're asking.
For testimony in lieu of email. Is that what you're saying?
So both written and oral testimony are considered equal and are in the record.
Yeah, I would like to summarize and add a little bit to what my email was sent yesterday about 2:30, 3 o'clock, something like that. And it's from the, I'm speaking for the Westerners, Spokane Corral, a history club that's been operating actively in Spokane since 1955. And it's part of an international organization that has been very active since 1946, 44 or 46, something of that nature. But we're interested in Western history of all types, and we have meetings monthly for camaraderie and for a presentation. So I'm speaking for them. The proposal to delete Fort George Wright Drive, and the way I read it, and to make it to call it Wistocks Way. Well, it should not be approved because that's Fort George Wright, and everybody knows it as such. There's a National Historic District by the name of Fort George Wright. There's a Fort George Wright Cemetery. That is where I included a map in my email that was made in 1858 by then Lieutenant John Mullen, and his topographer was Mr. Kalecki, and they drew the whole battlefield, the whole West Plains battlefield and the Four Lakes battle. And then it shows them proceeding down to the Spokane River, right where the exact location that Fort George Wright is now located, for a 3-day camp, 3 days in September. I don't remember it's in my email. So those soldiers probably traversed part of that, a portion of Fort George Wright Drive. It's intimately connected with Colonel Wright. So you have that. Then you compare that against Wistocks Drive. Well, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right, but it's difficult to pronounce. It's not sort of the English idiom, the English accent. I've seen it written with
Mr. Cooney,
yes.
We're near time. Can you please conclude? Thank you.
Well, what the heck? Who scheduled this on Veterans Day? Who do we have to blame for that? Hey, here's the deal. It has a hyphen in it sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. You go to your standards for naming a road or highway or whatever, it says not supposed to have punctuation like that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Cooney.
What's going on here? I'm feeling really railroaded and ramrodded.
I apologize, but we're going to try to adhere to our time limits today. So thank you for your input.
Well, nobody told me about a time limit. Nobody told me about a time limit.
I'm sorry, that's what we just reviewed, but thank you for your input. We did receive your email, so thank you.
Well, I can see this as a political
Mr.
thing.
Cooney.
I'm being cut off for no good reason.
Mr. Cooney, thank you. Okay, if we move on to anyone else I could be recognized today, please. I see a hand. Is Miss Johns? Thank
It's
you.
Mr., but I go by they, him.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at a tiny screen here.
It's okay. I
My
got long hair and
apologies.
I'm pretty, so there's that. I just like to reaffirm the words of people who believe in righting the wrongs of our history. I think as a Native American and as a resident of Spokane, I think it's absolutely disgusting that there's this homage to genocide and the celebration of this awful person who did horrible war crimes. As the person who spoke before of us talked about a battle, when it wasn't that. It was the American government killing women and children, slaughtering them and slaughtering horses. And this system is the responsible bed that the city is founded upon. I find it absolutely disgusting that we have, as citizens of Spokane, have allowed this to happen for so long. I think it's just absolutely horrendous. It's like naming a street after Hitler. We might as well have Hitler Avenue. And I think it's disgusting, absolutely disgusting, that we have to go through all these hoops and jump through all this stuff in order to recognize that there is this homage to white supremacy that people still want to uphold. And I find it absolutely disgusting. And so Wistock's Way, yes, please make that happen 5 years ago. Make it happen before they celebrated in genocide and all the horrible, horrible things that happened. So please change the name.
Okay, thank you, Mr. John, excuse me. Anyone else like to testify? See a hand for Stephen Steele, please.
Hi, I'm Karen Dorn. Yeah. Remember the Universalist Church of Jacob Jones is a member. The news about this last 2 years. We're very pleased to see this change. We support it wholeheartedly, and I encourage the commissioners to go ahead and send it to the city council. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Woke up on my end, but I think we got that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Ferguson, does he have?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to go on record as a member of the Spokane tribe that I and numerous other tribal members from a lot of the local tribes here endorse this.
Mr. Ferguson, we just lost your audio. And then with Lodge, could you perhaps mute, please?
Oh.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is that better?
Yeah, now you're back. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to say that, this is one of a handful of things that need to be changed here in this city. There is no honor in genocide, and to have streets or statues named after or paying tribute to anybody that did such horrific acts. If someone were to do that in today's society now, there's no way that we would honor them. So to keep this up is just a travesty. So I just wanted to go on record in endorsing this movement. So thank you.
Thank you for your input. Okay, anyone else? And please go ahead and speak up if I can't see all participants. Okay, Ms. L, please.
I would just share that we have received overwhelming support. We have a Colville tribal historian and former tribal council, Michael Finley, who is, he wrote a book on Kamiakin, and he said, I support the move. I've been in contact with very well-known and respected Yakima tribal elders, Patsy Whitefoot, who in fact got her master's in education from Fort Wright College. She sent an email supporting the name and sharing the history of the warrior women that was passed down through her family, and it is shared at the Longhouse at the Yakima Nation. We have met with Pastor Joe Witter from the Life Center, who has thousands of Congress folks in his parish that supports the name changing and understands the serious nature. We are not trying to erase history. In fact, many folks wanted a more harsh remembrance of the folks that were hung at in the battle by Fort George Wright. The tribe moved forward and met and discussed and with the tribal councils and received support from the Coeur d'Alene Tribal Council, the Colville Tribal Council, and brought to their culture committee the Yakima Nation. And so the tribes have been working across the leadership, and that's Indian country, that's protocol on how to get feedback. So I just wanted to share that additional information. We've reached out to non-Native folks like the Life Center, who represents thousands of folks, as well as the Unitarian Church. The pastor there supported our efforts and helped us organize our rally. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hill. Okay, anyone else?
Hello, this is Tony Lodge. My hand is up.
Yes,
May I
please.
be recognized?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
I sent you. This is Tony Lodge, and I'm a citizen of the Turtle Mountain Chippewa Nation, but I live and reside in the city of Spokane. I sent a lengthy letter to the Plan Commission, which I hope is in the record, but I just want to read one paragraph. Again, in summary, the name must be changed. We do not disagree on the beautiful name. What they're asking for, as in terms of the urban Indian community that lives in Spokane, and I am as the director of one of the larger Indian organizations in the city, that we do, as Margot Hill said, you recognize protocol. And in my letter to the Plan Commission, I suggested, even though there has probably been an informal conversation, and I know at the last meeting, 2 of the tribes formally weighed in on the name, that there be a legal protocol where all 6 of the local tribes sign that agreement, that we do it in a traditional, good way, that we have ceremony, that everyone has signed. We've invited guests like the 3 urban Indian organizations that actually signed the original petition asking for the name change. No local tribe signed that petition, I want to remind you. It was the urban Indian organizations. That we have ceremony for the naming, that we have a celebration, that our children and grandchildren witness it, because this is a legal document. And 100 years from now, people will look and mine our archives to look at us, how we made decisions and how we lived and worked together. So I would ask that that be done in a good way, according to protocol, cultural way, and that people sign their names, the local tribal leaders sign onto this agreement, and that we all as an Indian community are witnessed and celebrate the change. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, anyone else? Anyone on the phone that would like to be recognized?
I'd like to say something since nobody spoke up yet.
Yes, please. Can you? Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Can you hear me now? Okay. My name is Angel Tomio Sam. My mother is Rose Tomio. My father is John Winfield Mayle. I am a descendant of the Caldwell tribe, specifically the Insilshin Lakes Band. I am also number 11 out of 12 children, where half of us are Yakima and half of us are Colville enrolled members of that. I just would like to express gratitude for support in this community and the surrounding tribes to change this name. I don't know if Mr. Cooney is still on, but it's Wistalks, just like you would say beanstalks or you know, I just kind of want to assure this community that this is the right thing to do. I am in agreement with Tony and many other people who live right here in Spokane. I live here. I'm a lifelong resident. I was born at Sacred Heart Hospital, and half of my family live here and half live in other parts of the Pacific Northwest. I wanted to be able to just interject that, you know, that there ought to be a process moving forward, and I appreciate Councilwoman Stratton's suggestion, or you know, her being accountable to this process that, you know, was not, I feel like wasn't sensitive to the Indigenous community here in Spokane. I would like to also just kind of offer that, you know, again, there are 16,000 identified, you know, residents who are tribal members, who identify as being tribal members. There are also in that there are over 325 tribes that have been counted here from different tribes, 300 different tribes. And I know that here in Spokane that there are direct descendants of Qualshan, of Wistalks, of you know, my family, we're direct descendants of Kamiakin, and so, you know, I just would like to reiterate that again, is that, you know, there needs to be a process, and I think that to alleviate moving forward, you know, I would like to see you know, signatories of, you know, the community, because in the beginning, that's what I heard, that there was the petition or letter signed where folks in the tribal community would be included, and that just didn't happen.
Okay,
so
thank you, Ms.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay. Anyone else?
This is Tom Cooney. Did you say there'd be time for rebuttal?
No, I'm sorry. That's for the applicant. So we're only taking public testimony, and then the applicant has an opportunity at the end of testimony here.
Todd?
Yes.
It's
Excuse me?
It's
ahead.
Stephanie. I had a
Okay.
question. I can't remember what the code is for phone callers to unmute, but I muted all of them when we were having all the feedback, and it won't let me unmute them now.
Okay. Right. Star something, huh?
Yeah. Well, I looked it up online, and it looks like it may be *6.
I see Mr. Sanderson giving the confirmation there.
Okay.
So call-in users, if you're trying to testify, it sounds like you can unmute your phone through the WebEx system by pressing *6. So please do so now if you'd like to be recognized. By the way, I see Terrell and Lewis, you're the host. Is that part of the problem that you'd have to do that?
I'm having the same difficulty as Stephanie is, being able to unmute anybody, so.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Stephanie is the host. You're right. Okay. Okay. I see someone unmuted there. Is someone on the phone just unmute?
No, Todd, that was me, Councilman Wilkerson. I was just testing the system.
Well, thank you. That's also helpful. Thank you. Okay. Okay, if hearing no other, oh yes, Councilmember Stratton.
I was just going to say thank you to everybody for their comments, and I'm kind of putting Betsy on the spot right now, but if we are able to move the name forward, I don't think City Council as a whole, or Councilmember Wilkerson and myself we would be honored to put together a formal celebration and have an agreement for people to come together and sign. I mean, we hadn't, that has come up a couple times before, and I think we've been knee deep in just trying to get through this process. But absolutely, there's a great respect for our tribal communities, and we would have, I think both of us would be honored to help lead something like that with the regional tribes. So there's no problem as far as I'm concerned. Betsy, you can weigh in as well.
Absolutely. I think that would be amazing. I like it, as Tony Lodge said, to be part of the records and for the history of all the tribes. That would be amazing. But I also, again, remind everyone, we were working within the process that the city had. We have learned that we could do better. So there was never any intent to leave anyone out. We didn't know you were there, but once we found out you were invited in, there was never any intent to minimize the application process. We knew we just wanted to get the ball rolling, and we started it. And I know there's a lot of information that was left off of it, but in the office, again, we just wanted to get the process rolling. We felt it was time, so we took that initiative. So again, we apologize if you felt that we had not been more inclusive. But again, we're working in the system, and I would be honored to work with the urban groups and all the other tribal groups to honor this, because this is a momentous occasion, I think, and I would not like to see this opportunity pass us by.
May I speak to Ms. Wilkerson about something she said?
Mr. Cooney, we're not taking a rebuttal from the public, but I would like to remind everyone that this is one of multiple public opportunities, meaning our task today as a commission is to make a recommendation to our elected officials on the council for this proposed action. The council will also take public testimony, written and oral. So.
Well, she spoke to access. It took me, I started to try to get access to this meeting at 3:45, and I got on about 10 after 4. And I imagine there's others that are, I'm a pretty smart guy and pretty savvy on this stuff, and it was very difficult.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Cooney. Yes, we all share in those struggles with online format here. Okay, I'd like to start to conclude. I want to recognize Ms. Johnson, please.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to thank the commission as well as council members Stratton and Wilkerson for putting forth the application. I listened to the last hearing. I have also emailed. I am very supportive of the suggestion from Tony Lodge and Angel Tamio Sam, and really pleased with both the council people who are willing to look at an additional way of making this a historic change for this community. So we've got the legal process, hopefully, that will go forward from this commission, but we are recognizing the tribal way of making this go forward. And I'm just really pleased to see that openness. So thank you for taking the time.
Thank you. Okay. No other desire to be recognized. Thank you, everyone, for this whole process, for the workshop process, for the 2 hearings we've had. With that, then I am going to close the public testimony. And that allows us to move into our formal process of entertaining a motion to move this forward.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend to City Council to rename Fort George Wright Drive to Wistox Way.
I vote it second.
Okay, thank you. Moved by Greg and seconded by Sylvia. Now that allows us to move into deliberation.
Well, I would just like to say, I with all due respect to those people that are against this, I think this is a good change. I think this is a needed change. I think it's important to not erase history at the same time. And so one of the things I would like to suggest is that we either formally make a recommendation to City Council or I just do it informally to maybe erect some historical signage somewhere along that way to recognize the history and the change that occurred and why that change occurred. Because I don't want us to erase the history of what did occur there, because it is a travesty. And I think it's important to remember that. So I'm going to support this because I think it's an important change. Thank you.
I have a comment. In the last meeting, I was puzzling afterwards when we had the discussion of the renaming. I was puzzling afterwards about what certain speakers that testified meant as more inclusive, and I think I understand that now. And I'm suggesting, or understand it better, I'm suggesting, to supplement Greg's comment that, and the comment of the city councilor that sponsored this, that formal signing of the people that are should be involved and a ceremony makes a lot of sense now that I understand better what inclusivity, what was meant by inclusivity in the last discussion. And I don't know how we might recommend that as an adjunct sort of activity, but that's a thought. And that would also make the record, a recording of the signing and then of the actual ceremony, what that ends up looking like, would reinforce I think what you're saying, Greg, it's to not, better reinforce what the historical record is. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Diana. Please.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I don't know if this is a question or a comment. I don't understand the significance of hyphen in the name. I know what in my culture just means you drive a Prius or you got married or something. So my point is, if this is going to be one of many steps, which I hope that the city takes to right the wrongs with some of the, some of our past, that maybe we should find a way to make sure that we're sensitive to the proper spelling of the name. Now, I understand that it's against code right now to have a hyphen in the name, but maybe it's time we should reevaluate that. That's really all I have to say. I don't know how culturally sensitive it is or isn't to remove that hyphen.
Well, I think it's a good point, Commissioner Sanderson, and I think there are ways outside of the formal emergency, considerations that maybe in signage, so forth, right? So I agree. I advise that we keep that in consideration, or the council will keep that in consideration, and then also in implementation, of course.
Yeah, can we have Tammy speak to that? Because I think it actually is I would love to see the hyphen there if it could be included, since that is the proper name, as I understand it.
Our emergency response did have issue with the hyphen, but the Spokane tribe ran it past their linguist, and they were okay with the hyphen being removed. just for proper spelling. And so the Spokane tribe was okay with removing the hyphen in this instance for the street name. That doesn't mean it couldn't be included in some of the signage or the storytelling around it, but for the actual street sign, they were okay with that.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, I think that's helpful. And I would, again, just reinforce that, you know, this would be analogous to including, you know, other languages on signage and then also consideration be given for typography and so forth.
I think if I could follow up on my point was, I think maybe we should not ask for compromise anymore. If I could, that's my only thought.
I totally understand what you're saying, Mr. Sanderson, and we went through a county-wide addressing naming standard process back in 2016, and so all of Spokane County uses the same naming conventions. So if we wanted to look at changing that, we would probably be taking on a much broader scope. But it's a conversation we could look into. But it took about 1.5 years to go through and adopt countywide standards. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Thank you for speaking of that. I'm just laying the seed and walking away. Thank you.
I might have said this before in workshop, but I'd also encourage everyone to research the renaming in Minneapolis of Barimaki the lake, and then the process that they went through, which also included state and county and federal entities. And so there's some good precedent to how to approach this. So thank you.
So I have a question. Is there support for an amendment to ask for City Council to approve signage, historical signage?
Is that directed to us?
No, that's to all the other commissioners.
Okay.
So, yes.
Okay, well, I would like to make an amendment to the original motion to recommend to City Council to include historical signage on the former name and the new name and why the name was changed.
I second it.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Who would be responsible for doing that? Who's going to do that? Well, who's got the funds? Who's going to physically be doing it? Who's responsible for that?
Writing of it?
I guess
the putting it up. You're talking about a marker someplace. Is that
Right.
correct? An actual, like you see at these rest stops and everything, an actual description of what happened with this and why the name was changed and whatnot. So I imagine it would be, there's a cost with that. So who would be responsible for that is my only question.
I think that's a very real cost, and to me, it's a recommendation to council, and hopefully council would look for the funds or an organization that would be willing to put that together and collaborate on the wordage.
Okay, let's are there any other comments on the amendment? Let's take a verbal on that. If anyone else like to comment on it. Okay, so this is specifically on the amendment to include consideration for signage and representation. Okay.
Well, it's it's my understanding that Greg's motion is to make a recommendation to council that they look into interpretation on site, which only makes sense to then, look at who would be responsible, who would pay for it, and all that kind of thing. And if there was a sponsor. So a recommendation is a recommendation, right? So it doesn't hurt to say that. it's also the right thing to do, I think.
Yeah, thank you, Dan, for clarifying. We're, as an advisory group, we're making a recommendation to council for consideration and definition. Okay, on that amendment, let's do a verbal. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? Okay, thank you. And then moving back to the main motion. Any other comments from the commissioners?
Could the Salish name be put on the street signs underneath the Roman characters?
I think that's a possibility, but I'm not sure who's making that comment.
That was
This
Cliff.
is Cliff.
Oh, thank you, Cliff. Yes.
Can you repeat that? I couldn't hear what he said.
Could we put the Salish name underneath the Roman characters for the street name on the street signs?
Well, maybe that would go back to Tammy again. Question?
That would have to be something I'd talk to the street department about. We don't have a formal process for secondary names. And so that's something that we would have to look into more. But I can definitely ask the question.
Thank you.
Todd, this is Carol.
Yes, please, Carol. Go ahead.
Thank you. 2 comments. When the Department of Transportation were gathering comments in the East Central area about Waymaker signs, they were interested in putting Waymaker signs at certain areas. So they may be interested in participating in this project with Waymaker signs in that area. And then my second comment was, I just think this is a great opportunity for us you can't go back and change history or the decisions that were made at that time, but I think this would be a great way to help heal the land and the people and help us to be better able to collaborate with people as well, which unfortunately wasn't done hundreds of years ago or when this took place, but we can do something about it now. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Todd?
Yes, please. Joanne.
I agree with that comment. History's not going to change. It's going to be there, good or bad. It will always be there. But yes, this is our opportunity to maybe help right that wrong somehow. So I would support this.
Thank you.
I think this is we've had this on our tentative work plan for years. And I am so glad that I'm actually sitting on the commission when we actually have the opportunity to recommend this change, because I think it's a change that needed to be done a long time ago. And I'm just glad that I'm part of helping make that change occur. So thank you for bringing it forward.
No, I want to echo that. I'm honored to be part of this process. Thank you, everyone, for participation, for inclusion, for education. The renaming of public places, streets, and buildings is, I don't know if that's common with plan commissions. It happens to be part of our 1910 charter. Normally we deal with elements of the built environment, which of course this is, but it's always been the very rewarding process to be part of. So thank you. And I'd like to also say, you were talking about this earlier before the plan commission meeting today. I'm encouraged that this will lead to more consideration and more formal processes for not only renaming, but how we approach new efforts in naming streets, buildings, so forth. That I think this will allow us to have further questioning, but further conversation and dialogue with the community. So, which as commissioners we represent. So we are fellow citizens. So thank you very much. Any other commissioner like to comment before we, Mr. Sanderson, please?
If I could, please. Thank you. As most people know, I'm relatively new to the commission, only a few months. And I might be on for, I don't know, no one knows at this point. But this might be the most important decision that I'm going to be a part of. I truly feel that.
Thank you. Okay. Commissioners, should we go on a roll call? Okay, so the main motion is in support of the current name with the amendment for interpretation and signage, correct? Okay. Okay. With that, I think we can move to roll call, please.
Michael Baker,
So.
Todd Bayreuther,
Aye.
John Dietzman,
Aye.
Greg Francis,
Aye.
Diana Painter,
Aye.
Thomas Sanderson,
Aye.
Carol Shook,
Aye.
Sylvia St. Clair,
Aye.
Cliff Winger,
Aye.
Mary Winkus,
I'm sorry, Mary unfortunately doesn't get a vote on this, but thank you. As a liaison, sorry for just to make sure everyone understands.
oh, I'm sorry. Okay, and Joanne Wright.
Aye.
And motion carries.
Thank you, everybody.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Can I make it clarify?
I would have voted in favor of it. So.
Yeah, thank you, Mary. I didn't mean to sound so harsh on that. And for those that don't know, the liaisons are non-voting member, but
Yeah, but
a very important member of the commission. Thank you.
And now that we've completed the vote, I want to, Rachel Strother made a comment in the chat that talking about putting the Salish name on the historical signage. And so maybe that's the place where it can actually go. So just when we acknowledge that.
And I'd like to make a comment too. I'm sorry, I'm out of order, I think. Is that my recommendation was that we recommend as a body, because we are in charge of recommending, that the name go forward as proposed, but we recommend as a recommendation further looking into how interpretation might occur. So the one thing isn't dependent on the other. That the name will go forward, but then the other is like, maybe we can look more broadly at interpretation or dual signage or whatever it is. So I just want to make that clear that that's what I meant.
Yep. Agreed and understood. Thank you.
And Todd, I will say, Councilmember Stratton and myself have already started having discussions about signage and plaques and recognition of the site. So for all those out there, if we start reaching out to you, please respond.
Outstanding. Thank you.
And thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. This is a wonderful day, and we so appreciate it. And Margot Hill, Carol Evans, thank you for your leadership. We've got a lot of work to do, but we're going to get it done.
Outstanding. Okay, thank you. I think that's a good place to adjourn. So again, happy Veterans Day, and thank you everyone for this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a great week.
Stephanie, this is Tammy. Can I get a copy of the chat as well for the record so I have that moving forward?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Good.
I just paused because I don't know that I know how to get a copy of the chat, but won't close it out till I figure it out.
You should be able to download it.
And I just captured it just in case.
Yeah, I've got a copy and paste going on right now too.
Okay, great. I just think there was some great things said in the chat that I want to make sure that the city council can read as well.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you,
Thank you
everybody.
all.
Okay. Good night, everyone.